See, when you are present in someone's life every single day, your value can become familiar. And familiarity, if someone isn't emotionally mature, can turn into comfort. And comfort can turn into complacency. When a man sees you consistently showing up, loving him, supporting him, checking in on him, encouraging him, he can start to assume that this is permanent. Not because he's evil, not because he doesn't care, but because human nature sometimes takes for granted what feels secure. When you were there answering his calls, laughing at his jokes, standing by him during stress, being his emotional safe place, he didn't have to wonder if you were loyal. He didn't have to question whether you cared. He didn't have to feel the fear of losing you. And when a person doesn't feel the possibility of loss, they don't feel urgency. The moment you walk away, something shifts psychologically. Now there's space, and space creates reflection. When your presence is removed, your absence becomes loud. He starts noticing the silence where your voice used to be. He starts noticing that no one else checks in the way you did. He begins comparing every new interaction to what he had with you. And that comparison, it wasn't happening when you were still there. When he wakes up and doesn't see your message, that's when he remembers how consistent you were. When he goes through something stressful and realizes he doesn't have your emotional support, that's when he remembers how safe you made him feel. When he scrolls through his phone and sees your name no longer lighting up his screen, that's when he understands what steady affection actually meant. A man can intellectually understand that you're a good woman. He can say it. He can admit it. But until he experiences life without that goodness, he may not emotionally register what it truly meant. Loss activates emotional understanding. When he loses access to your love, your loyalty, your time, your energy, now he experiences the absence of those things. And absence has a way of amplifying importance. Think about it this way. When something is always available, you don't measure its worth daily. But the moment it's gone, you start calculating. You start remembering. You start replaying moments in your mind. The arguments feel smaller. The laughter feels bigger. The flaws seem less important. And suddenly, he's not just remembering you, he's reevaluating you. When you walk away with dignity, not screaming, not begging, not chasing, you change the dynamic. You remove emotional access. You remove physical access. You remove the comfort he relied on. And now he has to sit with his own choices. He has to sit with the decision he made when he didn't fight for you, when he didn't prioritize you, when he didn't step up. Because now he has to ask himself hard questions. Did I mishandle that? Did I underestimate her? Did I assume she would never leave? Those questions don't appear when you're still there reassuring him. They appear when reassurance is gone. When you remove that guarantee, you become rare. And rarity creates awareness. He may go out, distract himself, talk to other people, but comparison begins naturally. He starts noticing that not everyone communicates the way you did. Not everyone supports his dreams the way you did. Not everyone forgives the way you did. Not everyone stands steady the way you did. He replays conversations. He remembers the times you tried to express your needs. He might even recall moments where you asked for more effort and he brushed it off. Now those same moments echo differently in his mind. Now he sees the patience you had. Now he sees the grace you showed. Now he sees the loyalty you demonstrated. Your departure didn't make you more worthy. It made him more conscious of what he lost. That's an important distinction because you never want to believe that your worth depends on someone missing you. Your worth exists whether he realizes it or not. The reason men often realize value after loss is because humans are wired to respond to consequences. When there's no consequence to low effort continues. But when the consequence of low effort is losing someone meaningful, that consequence forces reflection. And when he can no longer access your time, your body, your attention, your validation, he feels the emotional withdrawal. That withdrawal can create longing. That longing can create regret. And that regret can turn into realization. You walking away is not manipulation. It's self-respect. It's saying, if I am not valued while present, I will not remain available. And that boundary often becomes the wake-up call. He starts thinking about you not just because he misses you, but because he underestimated you. He thought you would always stay. He thought your love was automatic. He thought your patience was endless. And when those assumptions collapse, he is left with memory and reflection. Memory filters out noise and highlights impact. He may start remembering the way you celebrated his wins, the way you stood by him during losses, the way you tried to communicate instead of quit. Those details grow larger in hindsight. A lot of people confuse emotion with evolution. Just because a man feels something intensely does not mean he has grown internally. Missing you is an emotional reaction. Change is a behavioral decision. Those are two very different things. A man can sit in his room at night, scroll through old pictures, reread messages, feel a lump in his throat, and still wake up the next morning exactly the same person he was when he let you go. When he starts missing you, what he is really missing at first is comfort. He's missing familiarity. He's missing the routine of you being there. He's missing the ego boost of knowing someone chose him consistently. He's missing access, and access is powerful. But missing access does not mean he has confronted the parts of himself that caused the separation in the first place. Real change requires self-reflection. It requires accountability. It requires a man to look at himself honestly and admit, I didn't show up the way I should have. That kind of honesty is uncomfortable. It bruises pride. And not every man is willing to go there just because he feels lonely. Loneliness can make anyone nostalgic. Nostalgia can make the past look better than it was. When he misses you, he might replay only the good parts. He might remember your smile, your support, your loyalty. But is he also remembering the conversations where you asked for more effort? Is he acknowledging the times he dismissed your feelings? Is he owning the patterns that hurt you? If he isn't confronting those things, then missing you is just sentimental thinking, not transformation. You have to understand something powerful. Pain does not automatically produce maturity. Pain presents the opportunity for growth. But growth only happens if the person chooses it. Some people feel pain and distract themselves. Some feel regret and jump into something new to avoid reflection. Some reach out not because they've changed, but because they want relief from the discomfort of missing you. When he reaches out saying, I miss you, that sentence alone tells you about his feelings, not about his development. Feelings can fluctuate. Development is consistent. If he truly changed, you would see evidence. You would hear accountability in his words, not excuses, not blame shifting, not you were too sensitive or we both made mistakes used as a shield to avoid ownership. Real growth sounds like responsibility. It sounds like clarity. It sounds like a man who understands specifically what he did wrong and how he plans to correct it. Change is visible in patterns. If he wasn't communicative before, has he worked on learning how to express himself? If he avoided commitment before, has he examined why he fears it? If he prioritized everything over you before, has he restructured his priorities? Without visible shifts in behavior, missing you is just emotion passing through. Sometimes a man misses you because you were good to him. That's natural. Good energy leaves an imprint, but missing good treatment is not the same as becoming someone capable of sustaining it. He might crave your loyalty while still lacking the discipline to honor it properly. He might miss your support while still being unwilling to provide security. He might want you back while still carrying the same habits that pushed you away. They hear the vulnerability. They see the tears. They feel the intensity. And they interpret that intensity as growth. But intensity can simply be attachment reacting to loss. Growth is quieter. Growth is steady. Growth is shown over time, not proven in one emotional conversation. If he truly changed, he won't just say he misses you. He will demonstrate consistency. He will move differently. He will approach you with humility instead of ego. He will listen instead of defend. He will prioritize instead of postpone. Change reveals itself in discipline, not declarations. Now let's talk about the deeper layer. Sometimes when he misses you, what he's really struggling with is the loss of control. When you walked away, you disrupted the dynamic. He expected you to stay. He expected you to tolerate. When you didn't, It shook his certainty, and that shake can feel like longing, but sometimes it's just ego reacting to rejection. If nothing internal has shifted, history will repeat itself, because people don't operate differently just because they feel differently. They operate differently when they think differently, and thinking differently requires inner work. It requires examining childhood patterns, emotional wounds, communication habits, fear of vulnerability, fear of commitment. That kind of work doesn't happen overnight just because someone feels sad. So when he says he can't stop thinking about you, don't let that sentence hypnotize you. Ask yourself, has he done the uncomfortable work? Has he acknowledged specifics? Has he demonstrated consistency over time? Has he shown patience instead of rushing you back into the same dynamic? Because here's the reality, sometimes he misses you because you were a safe place. But if he hasn't become safe for you, then nothing has truly changed. You deserve more than someone who realizes your worth after losing you. You deserve someone who is capable of sustaining that recognition through action. Missing you is a feeling. Choosing you daily is a commitment. Feelings rise and fall. Commitment is intentional. And if he truly has changed, you won't have to convince yourself. You won't have to analyze mixed signals. You won't have to decode confusing behavior. Change creates clarity. Change creates stability. Change creates effort that feels different. So yes, he may miss you deeply. He may think about you constantly. He may even regret letting you walk away. But regret is backward looking. Growth is forward moving. And unless he has stepped forward internally, all that missing is just emotion without evolution. When you walk away from something that no longer aligns with your value, you are not losing power. You are reclaiming it. Most people think power in relationships comes from holding on, convincing, fixing, proving, or fighting to stay. But real power is demonstrated in what you are willing to release. When you decide that love without respect is not enough, that attention without commitment is not enough, that words without action are not enough, you shift the dynamic entirely. When you stay in a situation where your needs are constantly minimized, you slowly begin negotiating with your own worth. You start justifying behavior that once bothered you. You start lowering expectations to avoid conflict. You start telling yourself, maybe I'm asking for too much. But deep down, you know you're asking for basic emotional security, consistency, and respect. The moment you choose to walk away instead of shrinking yourself to fit someone's comfort, something powerful happens internally. And self-betrayal is one of the quietest ways people lose confidence. Every time you accept less than you deserve, your inner voice becomes weaker. But when you honor your standards, even when it hurts, your inner voice grows stronger. You prove to yourself that your needs matter. You show yourself that you are capable of choosing long-term peace over short-term attachment. When you walk away with standards, you are sending two messages at the same time. One message is to him. The other is to yourself. The message to him is simple. Access to me requires alignment. The message to yourself is even more important. I am not afraid to lose what does not honor me. Because fear is what keeps many people stuck. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear that no one better will come. Fear that maybe this is the best they can do. When you walk away despite those fears, you build emotional resilience. You begin to trust yourself more. And self-trust is one of the strongest forms of power a person can have. If someone leaves because you require consistency, that person was not prepared to give it. If someone disappears because you require clarity, that person was not prepared to offer it. Standards don't create loss, they reveal incompatibility. And incompatibility is better discovered sooner than later. Walking away also shifts how you see yourself. When you remain in a situation that drains you, your energy lowers. You question yourself more. You overanalyze. You seek reassurance. But when you remove yourself from an environment that disrespects your needs, your clarity increases. You think more clearly. You sleep better. You feel lighter. That lightness is your nervous system no longer being in constant tension. Power is not loud, it's calm. It's the calm of knowing you don't need to chase. It's the calm of knowing you can survive disappointment. It's the calm of knowing your identity is not dependent on someone choosing you. When you walk away with standards, you detach your self-worth from someone else's validation. And that's when your presence becomes different. People can feel when someone values themselves. The way you speak changes. The way you carry yourself changes. The way you tolerate behavior changes. You no longer argue to be understood, you observe and decide. You no longer beg to be prioritized, you watch actions and respond accordingly. You no longer explain your standards repeatedly, you enforce them quietly. A standard without enforcement is just a preference. But when you walk away because your standard was not met, you show that your words have weight. You become consistent with yourself. And consistency with yourself builds deep internal confidence. Here's another layer. When you walk away, you interrupt the pattern of conditional acceptance. You stop teaching someone that you will stay, regardless of effort. In doing so, you elevate the value of your presence, because now your presence is not automatic. It is earned through mutual respect. But even more importantly, you elevate your own internal value system. You remind yourself that love should feel safe, not confusing. That communication should feel open, not forced. That effort should be mutual, not one-sided. And the more you practice honoring your standards, the less you tolerate misalignment in any area of life, friendships, work, family. It becomes a lifestyle of self-respect. Now let's address something real. Walking away with standards does not mean you don't feel pain. It does not mean you don't miss him. It does not mean you don't question your decision at times. Strength is not the absence of emotion. Strength is making aligned decisions despite emotion. You can love someone and still walk away. You can miss someone and still refuse to accept less. You can care deeply and still choose yourself. And that internal alignment, choosing yourself even when your heart feels heavy, builds a level of confidence that no relationship could ever give you. That realization changes how you move in the future. You no longer enter relationships afraid of loss because you know you can leave if you must. You no longer cling out of insecurity because you trust your ability to rebuild. You no longer tolerate breadcrumbs because you've experienced the strength of standing alone. Walking away with standards also creates space for growth, space for better alignment, space for someone who naturally meets your expectations instead of resisting them. When you clear out what doesn't honor you, you create room for what does. When you value yourself, you attract differently. You choose differently. You respond differently. You stop being impressed by potential and start observing patterns. You stop falling for promises and start watching consistency. You stop confusing intensity with compatibility. Walking away is not weakness. It is a declaration. It is saying, I would rather stand alone in dignity than stay in confusion. And dignity builds self-worth in a way compromise never will. A lot of people confuse intensity with sincerity. They think because someone feels strongly, speaks passionately, or expresses regret emotionally, that it must mean love is real and ready. But love is not measured by how much someone thinks about you when you're gone. It's measured by how they show up when you are present. It's measured by consistency, by effort, by sacrifice, by alignment between words and behavior. When a man loses you and starts overthinking, his mind can create 1,000 scenarios. He can replay memories, imagine what he would have done differently, feel guilt, feel sadness, even feel fear that you're moving on. But overthinking is internal. It happens inside his head. Love, on the other hand, steps outside of the head and into action. Love moves. Love adjusts. Love grows up. If he says, I can't stop thinking about you, that tells you about his thoughts. If he says, I made mistakes, that tells you about his awareness. But if he says, here's what I've changed, here's what I've learned, here's what I'm doing differently, and then consistently proves it, that tells you about his transformation. Love without action is simply emotion. And emotion, no matter how intense, does not build stability. You cannot build a future on someone's nostalgia. You cannot rebuild trust on someone's late night loneliness. You cannot feel secure on someone's temporary surge of regret. Security is built through patterns, through repeated demonstrations, through someone choosing you again and again, not just missing you once. If you matter, you will see it in time allocation. You will see it in effort. You will see it in the way he protects the connection instead of threatening it. You will see it in how he listens when you speak instead of preparing his defense. You will see it in how he corrects himself without being forced. Action removes doubt. Action answers questions without long explanations.